You know, mama died saying my baby was poisoned with cyanide.
But he was telling me about his whole day, his whole night.
You describing the coroner look. He asking you in the room, what did he look like?
No, Pimp wasn't in the bed in the room.
He wasn't in the bed?
No, they was removing him when we was on the phone.
That's the other part, because I asked people, can you kill yourself twice?
She went to the restroom and Buddy said, look, y'all don't say nothing. I'm going to play a joke on Pimp.
Then I was just there, so it's not like, yeah.
Oh, wait, you was in California?
Yeah, I left. Long story short.
Pimp C, born Chad Butler, was found dead in his hotel room on the morning of December the 7th in 2007. After answering a 911 call, the LA County Fire Department discovered Pimp dead in his 6th floor room in the Mondrian Hotel. Pimp was in LA following a performance with Too Short at the House of Blues a few days earlier. Captain Ed Winter of the LA County's Coroner's Office stated that Pimp died of natural causes. According to Winter, there were no drugs on his person, nor was there any paraphernalia in his hotel room. Any way you spin it, there's no such thing as an unexpected death. But for Pimp, his passing was at a noticeably pivotal time in his long-running career. Pimp died just mere months after he and Bun B linked up with Outkast for their international players anthem, I Chose You collaboration, UGK's biggest commercial splash to date, and quite frankly, one of the best rap songs to ever be made. Let's move on. Larry Franklin Adams, aka LA, born in 1983, hails from Jackson, Mississippi. Larry would later relocate to Cali, Fresno to be exact, where he would be a known player in the game. It wouldn't be long before LA would build a relationship with Pimp. Per the people in Pimp's circle, LA was known for showing up to Pimp's out-of-town shows as he would steadily begin to become closer and closer to Pimp. Per the streets of PA and Beaumont, whenever Pimp would be on the road, LA was allegedly backdooring Pimp creeping with his wife.
All I know is the shit that was going around in PA, shout out to Port Arthur, and Beaumont and shit like that. And this is, what's that word, allegedly. You know what I'm saying, that the Larry nigga was creeping in through the back and shit. This the shit that niggas ain't gonna tell you except the niggas who was really right there.
Although LA was running tough with Pimp, people closest to Pimp, like 17 the Hog, will go on record to state that he didn't know LA, that he only knew of LA.
Who was a guy named Buddy?
Man, named Larry.
Okay.
We called him LA. That was his name. He was, I mean, I don't know. Shout out to Mississippi. He was in Mississippi, but he was from Jacktown.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know him. You feel me? When I got there, I didn't know him, but Pimp would always tell me like, well, shit, LA say you the coldest one. You know what I'm saying? Because it was always between me and Toe for Pimp as his rappers. You know what I'm saying? And so I ain't really knowing. He would be at the shows like at different cities we would go to. He would just be there. But Ken could tell you, it was a entourage of us.
Pimp and Mama West, who were the sole owners of UGK Records, opened the doors for LA to invest in the label. It was rumored that LA had invested a meal ticket into UGK.
I'm not sure the total amount.
He said that on the phone.
He gave C like $100K.
Put
$1
another
million.
zero. Yes.
Let's fast forward. The year is 2007. Pimp is in LA finalizing an 8-figure publishing deal. Pimp's hotel of choice was the Mondrian Hotel. Edgar, Pimp's cousin, who is usually always on the road with Pimp, did not make the trip. For this particular trip, something very suspicious had taken place. Pimp's wife had allegedly hit Mama West up, telling her that Edgar won't be able to make the trip. This had all taken place without Edgar having knowledge of the conversation.
I know this is gonna probably stir up some things, but I gotta say it because that's how I feel. I always thought it was something suspicious from day one. I had never told C I had to work, so apparently his wife told him, okay, rewind. Mama was like, I thought you had to work. This is why they was already gone. Like, nah, where you get that from? Well, Shanard told C you had to work, so you couldn't go on the trip.
Wait a minute.
Huh?
Wait a minute.
So by her telling him I couldn't go, stopped me from going.
This is where things would get shady. Later that night, Pimp was left in his hotel room with 3 people. His wife, who was in attendance at the time, left the room with the excuse being that Pimp's Bentley would be towed if she didn't move it, which was in an entirely different state.
Then I was just there, so it's not like, yeah.
Oh, wait, you was in California?
Yeah, like I left, long story short, shit again. I left to move the car. We were rushing, as usual. We're on trail time. Okay, so.
Divine time and trail time. That's the time
Mike
she be
Mo,
on for
you know
real.
Mike Mo. Stacy Mo. Stacy works at Bush. So we already been in California a day. She hits me and like, Shanard, you better move the car or have somebody send me the keys, something. So I was like, oh shit, I know I shouldn't have parked there.
Not long after that, Pimp would be snaked and lose his life. A large amount of people would attend Pimp's funeral, which was draped heavily with armed personnel.
Several well-known rap artists were among the hundreds of fans that bid farewell to Pimp C.
And despite their celebrity status, stars and citizens alike faced heavy security at the Civic Center. KBTV4's Erica English continues our team coverage with that part of the story.
At the request of the family, security was in full force at Chad Pimp C. Butler's funeral Thursday.
We're searching all purses, metal detectors, just for the main thing, cell phones with cameras, stuff like that.
Everyone wear proper funeral attire. They don't want any type of cell phones, any type of recording devices, things of those nature inside the Civic Center.
Port Arthur Police Lieutenant Martin Blitch says only a few days after Butler's death, law enforcement agencies began planning for the security, including Groves and Port Neches police, the DPS, Jefferson County Sheriff deputies, and constables. The FBI provided backup and placed marksmen on the roofs of nearby buildings.
This is not a show. This is a respect for a gentleman who has passed away, and we want everything to go orderly.
Well, we didn't know what the magnitude of the crowd was going to be, and everything was safety precaution. We wasn't expecting any trouble, but to react if we did have any trouble.
Jefferson County Constable Eddie Collins worked closely with the family to plan the funeral, down to the smallest detail. The fans were allowed through the front entrance. The family, including close friends rappers Bun B, Mike Jones, and Chameleonaire, went through a side door. Officers say it was important to keep security tight, not only because some of the famous people attending, but because this was one of the largest funerals in Port Arthur's history.
But they got so many of his fans who want to see him, you know, who bought every album, but they can't get in.
And celebrities were no exception, as one was almost turned away.
They ain't letting us in. They say we ain't dressed right.
However, Webby was eventually allowed in to pay his respects with other artists such as Bun B, the other half of the Underground Kings, and Mike Jones.
Oh man, I had to show my respect, man. Pimp C brought me in the game, you know.
Houston rapper Chameleonaire says Pimp C's talents will be greatly missed in the hip-hop industry.
Man, it's just his personality, man, his spirit, his soul. Like, there's nobody that can duplicate that.
Touched everybody, so I just wanted to come out to get that support because he's definitely a true famous player, so I'm here for him.
Butler's mother, who's affectionately called Mama West, hopes her son's legacy will live on through the music of other artists.
He's going to leave a legacy that's going to be very positive, and we're going to continue it, and, you know, we're going to try to keep the torch going, you know.
carrying the torch for the other artists inspired by the talented Port Arthur native. Erica English, KBTV4, Port Arthur.
Now peep this out. After Pimp's death, his people Murd would walk in on Mama West unannounced. It was at this point that Murd overheard Mama West in a heated argument over the phone.
Murd said he walked in on Mama while she was living on Shreveport Ave, right?
Yeah.
Came in through the garage like we always did. And he said as he was coming in the house, she was finishing a argument on the phone with someone.
Yeah.
And all he could hear her say was, baby, you didn't own it while he was alive and you ain't gonna own it now. And he didn't know what that was about. And he said, Mama, who was that? She said, that was that Larry nigga.
Mm-hmm.
Old buddy.
Yeah.
Murd would later learn from Mama West that it was L.A. on the phone making claims that he was now the owner of UGK. Why had this argument taken place, you might ask? Edgar will go on record to share the details.
Common sense, if you got two people that own one company,
yes,
one person dead,
yes,
is your company.
No. He didn't say he owned UGK Records.
Oh, he owned UGK.
Yes, that's what he said.
Another wild situation that would take place during this entire ordeal was L.A. showing up to Pimp's funeral with bodyguards.
You know what's crazy? I seen Ball and G. They walked in the back when it was over. They were walking in, and when they walked in, old Buddy was behind them with security. What was that about?
I saw David Banner.
I'm talking about old Buddy. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
Buddy had security at the funeral. For what? I'm looking at him like, what the fuck you got all these niggas around you for?
Dude was even allegedly bragging in the streets of Jackson that it was in fact him who had killed Pimp.
And like you and I said that you had heard the same thing, that he was going around bragging.
Yep.
That he had done this.
Yep.
What?
Yes, in the streets of Jackson.
And I heard it from someone who at one point really didn't know I was even affiliated with Pimp, but we were associated through a former organization I was with.
Yes.
And we just got to talking. He said, hey, man, what's up with Buddy? And I was like, I've heard this and heard that. It's like, man, well, what you heard is true because I'm from Jackson.
Yes.
Karma's a bitch, and everyone knows it. Let's dive into the definition of karma. Karma in Hinduism and Buddhism is the sum of a person's actions, this in previous states of existence, viewed as deciding their fate in future existences. I say that to say this: both Larry and his brother would be murdered. The fate of Ali's brother will be a gruesome one. His body would be shred to pieces by a combine harvester chopper. If you don't know what a combine harvester chopper is, a combine harvester, also known as a combine, is a large agricultural machine that is used to harvest crops such as wheat, corn, soybeans, and other grains. It combines several different functions into one machine, including cutting, threshing, and cleaning. As for L.A., he would lose his life in similar fashion to Pimp. Mama West, who passed in August of 2013, had lived long enough to see both their fates sealed. My question is this before we sign off: if there were 3 people in the room at the time of Pimp's death, who was it that told the story?
Joins us live with details. Jackie? Authorities tell us there are 1,777 people here at the funeral for Chad Pimp C. Butler here at the Bob Bowers Civic Center. This is the program each of them received as they walked through the doors. And mourners started lining up even hours before they were let in. They weren't let into the Civic Center until a little bit before 10 o'clock this morning, and it was very orderly. I really can't say that the mood here at the Bob Bowers Civic Center is somber. I think a more appropriate word would be that they have been very respectful, which is just what the family wanted. The family even requested that people who come here to the funeral wear appropriate funeral attire And I think this morning they have received just what they wanted. The crowd filed in very orderly. They were very quiet as they waited for the service to begin. As a matter of fact, the only big show of emotion from the crowd came when a Jives record representative got up to speak and tell stories about Chad. He told the audience about how Chad wanted to have the first type of Bentley in the Big Pimpin' video, and he was telling Pimp C that there's no way we could get this type of Bentley for you, but somehow he managed to get it. But the standing ovation actually came from comments that the record company representative directed to Mayor Dolores Prince, Port Arthur Mayor Dolores Prince. He spoke about how he saw Jimmy Johnson Boulevard when he was driving through Port Arthur, and that he one day hoped he would see Chad Butler Boulevard. That caused a roar from the crowd, and it received a standing ovation. Chad was very proud of coming from Port Arthur, Texas. A lot of the national media reports say that he represented Houston, but throughout his music and everywhere he went, he always spoke about Port Arthur. And the people who are here at his funeral aren't just fans. These are people who attended school with Pimp C in middle school. They attended high school with him. We spoke with one of his friends who not only attended school with him, but shot Pimp C's video last year here in Port Arthur. Here's what he had to say.
He was a friend. He was loyal to his crew, his friends, his family. He cared about a lot of people. He was passionate about his music, and I just feel like Chad was a real good friend to me. So I just feel like he was a real great person.
Now, we reported this morning that Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, and Scarface would not be in attendance today, and to my knowledge, they are not in attendance. The entertainers I have seen, though, this morning include rappers Chamillionaire and Slim Thug from the Houston area, also Little Webby, and singer LaToya Luckett, who is a solo artist at this time, but is formerly with Destiny's Child. Pimp C leaves behind his family, his wife and 3 children, his mother and father, a grandmother, and his in-laws, and he leaves behind a list of accomplishments, including this year's #1 album, Underground Kings, a Grammy nomination for International Players Anthem, and recognition as one of the best hip-hop groups of all time with UGK as rated by MTV. Chad Butler will be buried at Green Lawn Cemetery in Grove.